Every single day we stand in front of countless digital gates. We're talking about our email, our bank accounts, our social media, you name it. And every single time we need the right key to get in. But have you ever stopped to wonder, how does the lock know it's really you? Well, let's dive in and really unpack the science behind digital identity verification. At the end of the day, it all boils down to this one critical question. Seriously, every login, every single transaction, every secure connection we make, it all hinges on getting the answer to this right. This question is basically the gatekeeper of our entire digital world. Now, the technical term for answering that big question is user authentication. And you can think of it as the bedrock, right? It's the foundational layer that all digital trust is built on. If you don't have it, there's no privacy, no security, and really no confidence in any of our online interactions. Okay, so how do we actually prove we are who we say we are? Well, as it turns out, there are really only 4 fundamental ways to do it. These are the basic building blocks for pretty much every single verification system out there. And what's so cool here is just how simple these concepts are at their core. First up, you've got what you know. That's your classic password or your ATM pin. Simple enough. Then there's what you have. That's a physical thing, like your phone that gets an authenticator code, or maybe a keycard for work. Third is who you are, and now we're talking biometrics, like the fingerprint or the face scan on your phone. And finally, there's what you do. This one's a bit more subtle. It's about behavioral patterns, like how fast you type or even the way you move your mouse. So how do these factors actually get used? It might seem super complex from the outside, but pretty much every time you log into anything, you're taking part in this universal, behind-the-scenes process. You can think of it as a kind of secret digital handshake. And this breaks down that handshake perfectly into 6 steps. It all starts with you claiming your identity, then the system challenges you to prove it. You provide that proof, and the system verifies it, and if everything checks out, boom, you get a secure session. There's also that optional extra layer of security at the very end. So let's break down that initial handshake a little more. Step 1 is just you telling the system who you are, typing in your username. That's your claim. Then, in step 2, the system fires right back with a challenge. It's basically saying, oh yeah, prove it. And in really secure systems, this isn't just a password box, it's a unique one-time random number called a nonce, which is super clever, because it stops attackers from just replaying your old login info. Step 3. This is the moment of truth. This is where you actually respond to that challenge. You might use a classic password, or you might provide a one-time code from a token, which could be a little physical device or just an app on your phone. You could also use a super secure digital signature from a private key, which is just a secret digital file only you have. Or, of course, you could just use a quick biometric scan. And finally, the system takes your proof and does its homework in step 4. It checks, does the password hash match? Is that digital signature valid? If it gets a yes, then congratulations. In step 5, you are granted a secure session. This is often in the form of something called an access token, which is kind of like a temporary digital keycard for that website. And for those really high security sites, it might just ask you for one more thing in step 6. Okay, so we know how it works, but this brings us right to the heart of the matter, the core dilemma in all of digital security, really. And that's this constant tug of war between making things totally secure and, well, making them easy to actually use. I love this visual because it just perfectly captures that balancing act. Every single method we've talked about involves a trade-off. What you gain in security, you often lose in convenience, or you add in cost, and the other way around. The truth is, there's no single perfect solution. And this table here really brings those trade-offs into sharp focus. Just look at passwords. They're super easy and cheap to implement, right? But they're also notoriously weak and easy to phish. Then you jump to the other end of the spectrum with something like public key infrastructure, or PKI, which uses a secure pair of digital keys instead of a password. It is incredibly strong, but it can be a whole lot more complex for the average person to set up. See? Every method has its pros and cons. Let's just talk about the password for a second. It's the one method we all know and, well, it's the one we all have to deal with. It's everywhere because it's simple, but that very simplicity is its downfall. It's vulnerable to just about everything, from phishing attacks that trick you into giving it up, to just our bad human habit of reusing the same weak password for everything. So what about the other extreme? Biometrics. They feel like the future, right? I mean, it's the ultimate convenience tied directly to you. But here's the paradox. The critical, massive flaw is that if your biometric data is ever stolen, it is compromised forever. You can't just reset your fingerprint like you can a password. It's gone.
So if every single one of these methods has a weakness, what's the answer? Well, it isn't about finding one perfect, unbeatable lock. It's about using multiple locks. The solution, in one word, is layers.
This formula right here is really the core idea of this entire explainer. A simple claim, it's just not enough. You need strong evidence, those layers we were just talking about, which then gets verified by the system. And the strongest evidence always comes from combining different factors. And that brings us to the hero of modern security, multi-factor authentication, or MFA. See, instead of searching for that one perfect solution, a well-designed system will strategically combine these factors. It uses something you know, plus something you have, plus maybe even something you are. And by layering these defenses, MFA basically shuts down the most common ways that hackers try to get in. A stolen password, it becomes useless if the attacker doesn't also have your phone. A lost phone, it's no good to them if they don't also have your fingerprint. Each layer covers the weaknesses of the others, and that creates a system that's way more resilient than the sum of its parts. So, as we wrap things up, it really leaves us with one final, very personal question. We all have these digital gates we need to protect, and we now know that the strongest defense is always built in layers. So the only question left is this: are you using enough of them to truly secure your digital life?